Welcome to Convene Connections. Real life, real people, real experiences. And now, here's your special guest host, Brayden and Shayna.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Happy Thursday to everybody. I hope everybody's had a great day so far. I'm here with Shayna tonight. We're going to have a discussion about a very, very prominent topic, especially right now, as well as just really over the past 20 or I guess 15, maybe 10, 15 years or so. We're going to be talking about social media. But before we get into that, I know everybody was dying to know, yes, I still do have a mustache, and I plan to, I think I might plan to rock it through the end of the year. So if you guys have any feedback for me on it, yes, no, maybe so, leave it in the comments. Let me know. Does it need to go, or are you guys feeling it as much as I am? So anyway, I'm here with Shayna. Shayna, how are you tonight?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's been a great week, great busy week. It's Friday Junior. I'm always pleased about that. So awesome. So
definitely.
So like I said, we're going to talk about social media tonight. We're going to talk about social media and how it impacts you, how it impacts your family, your friends, your children, your relatives, etc. And really where this topic came from was last week, at the beginning of last week, we one of our community leaders actually reached out to us and said, hey, there's this really awesome documentary on Netflix right now. It's called The Social Delima.
Right.
And this person said that when she first watched it, number one, she was super intrigued. Number two, she kept thinking about Convene Communities, and she kept thinking about how much different and what we do differently, how we set ourselves apart from other social media platforms. So she said she even went back and watched it again and took some notes this time. So us as a team, right, Jana, we all took it upon ourselves to each watch it and take some notes about it. So that's what we're going to be talking about. If you haven't seen that documentary and you have Netflix, we would all highly recommend you go check that out. It's about an hour and a half long, but I promise it's very, very, very interesting stuff, very interesting content. And we'll get into a little bit about what it talks about. And so I thought we would kick it off since we're talking about social media and just talk about what platforms are you on, Shayna? You know, we're both young folks. It's probably I spend a fair amount of time on social media, maybe not as much as others, but what platforms are you on? Curious to know.
So personally, I'm on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and I am hooked on Pinterest.
Hooked on Pinterest.
And then also, although Convene Communities isn't a social media platform, I'm also on Convene Communities.
Of course.
But for work, I'm pretty much on any platform and every platform, depending upon who I'm working with and what social media, platform works best for what they're trying to accomplish.
Gotcha. So let me ask you this. So like personally, maybe let's put work aside for a minute.
Awesome.
Personally, where do you on which platform or forums, if there are multiple, do you find yourself spending the most time personally?
Okay, great. I think it all depends on my mood. So I'm a avid YouTuber. But besides like recording and uploading videos, like I will stream videos like back to back from hair and makeup.
I see you out there.
Yeah. From motivational videos to just all different types of videos. Like it really depends on what I'm in the mood for.
Okay.
But if I need some like visual inspiration, Pinterest is like the way to go.
It's where it's at.
It's where it's at. And then as far as like Instagram, it's just like one of those things where it's just like, okay, just scroll through.
Gotcha.
So yeah. What about you?
So I'm on Facebook. Actually, Facebook, if I look back, Facebook was the very first very first social media account that my parents allowed me to get. This was back in 2013.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in middle school at the time. So I think I was about maybe 12, 13 or something like that. But I had, prior to that, like all of my friends had begged and begged and begged, or excuse me, all of my friends were on MySpace. and I begged and begged and begged and begged them to let me get a MySpace because it was a cool thing to do. You know, I'd go over to my friends' houses and they'd be like showing me their MySpaces and all that, and I wanted one so bad, but they never let me. But I got Facebook. I finally let them get they finally let me get a Facebook after I strong armed them into it. And I used Facebook probably primarily for those next few years.
Yeah.
But today I am on Facebook, but probably don't use it nearly as much as I used to. To be quite frank, I don't even know half the capabilities of Facebook.
And speaking of Facebook, I think I'm on Facebook a lot too.
Yeah.
Now that you mention it,
You're on Facebook
I actually am.
Facebook's kind of like how I keep in touch with like my friends' parents and grandparents and distant relatives and things like. Well, I mean, I know a lot of young people like me would say, yeah, Facebook's kind of like for the older crowd. At least that's how I perceive it. But where I spend most of my time these days, I spend a whole lot of time on Instagram. I really like Instagram, and I also spend a whole lot of time on Snapchat as well.
Okay, yeah.
I do spend a lot of time on Snapchat. Do you have a Snapchat?
I used to, in college days. Yeah, that was probably.
Caesar,
I would have had a whole another answer.
Caesar's got a Snapchat.
I'm guilty.
I love it. But yeah, those are the two platforms that I spend the most time on. I mean, Snapchat, like to me, it's a mode of communication. I communicate with a lot of my friends via Snapchat, old friends via Snapchat.
Right.
I don't necessarily go through they have like, I don't know what you would call those. There's like random feeds. I don't necessarily go through those, but it's basically a mode of communication for me. And then Instagram, I just like Instagram because it's simple. It's just pictures and videos, and it's just simple. It simplifies it to me. Like when I get on Facebook, it's like overwhelming. It really is. It's like overwhelming. I don't even know how to necessarily navigate it. These days, but
it's funny that you mentioned that it's overwhelming because like as soon as you mentioned that phrase, like the first thing that came to mind was like how it connects to depression, which I'm sure we're kind of gonna pivot this conversation at some point, but that's exactly what came to my mind. Like people, they get on these social media platforms and they, are constantly scrolling. And then like it can become overwhelming, which can lead to some kind of like depression or something.
Yeah, it's overwhelming, and more so on Facebook than Instagram. I find myself like seeing things that are completely irrelevant to me. Like somebody that I had never, like not necessarily like a public figure or somebody like that, but just literally some random individual, like I don't know who this person is, or I don't know, so just random stuff like that. And a lot of times, like I'll be looking for the Convene podcast on Thursday nights, and it takes me a minute to physically find it on my phone.
Oh wow!
So it's things like that I guess kind of like steer me away from Facebook. But Facebook's great for a lot of reasons. Like Facebook's great for a lot of reasons. So let's talk about the positives of social media. Let's talk about what we like about it. You want to take that first?
Well, like you said, I think, it's a great avenue to connect with people, communicate, keep those lines of communication open, kind of, just seeing where other people are in their lives. Now, although, we tend to only post the positives, so you get the highlight reel of their lives, but, it's good to really highlight those positives and see where people currently are doing. I think also the benefits is just finding new services, new products.
Yep.
And just being able to learn more than you would, well, not than you would, but being able to learn more.
Yep.
So yeah, so I think those are some of the key positives that come to mind right now. Yeah.
I mean, and I would agree too. I think staying connected is a huge part of the positive part of
Right.
social media, and maybe the most obvious positive part. Like staying connected with high school friends, even
Right.
middle school friends, people that I have not seen in years, some of which are getting married, and all of those things.
Exactly.
I want to stay connected with those people.
Yeah.
I want to know what's going on and what's up with them, of course. And then family members as well, staying connected with family members,
Exactly.
seeing what they're up to, because if there was no social media, it'd be maybe a little bit more difficult to know what's up, what's going on in those people's lives. So yeah, I think staying connected is huge. And you also, on that note, you got to think about, we're young, right? We're young bucks here, but you got to think about, like, my parents, my dad, my mom,
Right.
they've been able to reconnect with people that they knew in high school that they maybe haven't spoken with since high school. And I think that's an incredibly powerful and positive thing as well. And it's actually, I've heard stories about Facebook and social media reuniting lost family members, like people who, folks who literally have completely lost touch and they have no idea where their relative is, or their son, their daughter, whatever it may be. And that's an incredibly positive thing as well. And I think you see all the time. I forgot to mention I'm on Twitter as well.
Oh.
But I don't. I mean, I do spend some time on Twitter, but it's more sporadic. Like sometimes.
Is that where you get your news?
No, not really. Not
That's
really.
funny.
I mean, kind of, but you really gotta pay attention to.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You really gotta pay attention to what you're looking at.
Your sources.
Twitter's probably. I mean, I think you can get reliable news from Twitter, but you can also get some very unreliable news from Twitter. But anyway, what I was going to say was, I've seen and actually witnessed and heard of stories where Twitter and social media has been a force for good.
Yeah.
So maybe there's something negative that has happened to someone, and you'll see somebody make a post about it, and then down below they'll say something like, "Twitter, do your thing," and then that goes viral, and then a positive outcome.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too. Another positive of social media is being able to reach more people, than you would just going out there. Let's say you're raising money for a specific cause, or, like you said, like things going viral, especially if it's something for a good, good reason. Just being able to reach more people than you could, outside of social media.
Yep.
So
that's right. And and to build off of that, it's an extremely important tool these days for businesses as well, right? Yep, so definitely. Organizations and nonprofits that are taking donations and things like that, all of those kinds of businesses and organizations can leverage social media for their business or for their cause or whatever they're trying to do. It's an extremely powerful tool.
One of my favorite nonprofits, Charity Water. That's when I was really getting into starting my business. I knew that, like, off rip, I wanted them to be one of the places that I donated to, like,
off
consistently.
Rip.
Yes.
Off.
Right.
I love it.
Charity Water, like, they have such a great mission and such a great cause, but I wouldn't have never knew of them had it not been for social media, because I think, like, one of their ad popped up when I was on YouTube, and the story made me so emotional. It just, like, hit me in the core of my spirit, and I was just like, wow, like, this is a really great cause. So, that's definitely one of the plus sides of social media, is just being able to get your mission out there, or
your message,
or if you're an influencer, what you're trying to do, and who you are. So
Yeah,
So definitely
absolutely,
some of the
for sure.
positives.
I've seen some pretty powerful stuff
Hmm.
on social media, stuff that I didn't know about before, but stuff
Exactly.
that that people probably all people should probably know about.
Yeah.
This next thing I'm gonna throw out there, I think could be seen as a positive, and
Hmm.
then maybe
And
also
negative.
a
Yeah.
negative. So I am in the market for like some pants right now. Like
Okay.
I'm in the market. I'm in the market for some pants, y'all. So I'm gonna need like some new jeans for the fall and winter season. I could use some new work pants and things like
Hmm.
that. And so I began to kind of look things up on my phone,
Hmm.
and then I'll be scrolling through Instagram,
Right.
and Instagram has learned that I'm in the market for some pants.
Hmm.
And so they're popping up,
Making
they're
suggestions.
making some suggestions for me. Some sponsored ads are popping up.
Hmm.
However, in this particular instance, I don't necessarily see that as a negative because I
Hmm.
don't necessarily know what brand, what price range and all
Right.
that I want to go with yet. And it's almost like Instagram
Hmm.
is kind of doing the research for me
Right.
in a way. Like,
Yeah.
I'm getting exposed to new brands that I haven't
Hmm.
seen before, etc. So does that ever happen to you in a
Always.
good way and or bad way?
Both. It's it can happen in a good way, but at the same time it's just like, wow, like you were listening to me.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I'll literally like just say something, like I'll have a thought and I'll just say it out loud, and then when I open my phone I'll get an ad and I'm like, oh my gosh, like
Hmm.
that's
No,
kind of
yeah,
creepy.
and see that, yeah, that is when it gets that I think there's a
That's when it
lot.
becomes a negative. Yeah.
I think there's a line in the sand there, and at that
Mhm.
point, I think they're crossing it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and my dad Matt, Matthew Curran, if you know him, he's probably told you this story before, but I'm gonna tell it anyway because it's a true story. I was standing right
Mhm.
there. He took a trip to Israel.
Mhm.
Went on like a fellowship trip to Israel. It was incredibly great trip for him, super spiritually enlightening and impactful, all of that great jazz. And we were talking about it one day at home, sitting around in the kitchen with my mom.
Mhm.
Um, and he was like, you know what? I think it'd be a great family trip to take one day. And we just had, kicked the idea around for maybe 4 or 5 minutes or something like that. And then lo and behold, like 10 minutes later, he's scrolling on
Wow.
his phone and like airline tickets to Israel pop up. And it's like, what? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So it gets a little creepy
Yeah.
sometimes.
It's
So
like,
yeah. So those are positives
mm,
of, those are positives of social media. And I think, social
mhm.
media does a lot of good. I use social media. I'm not going to sit here and act like I don't use it because
Right.
I do, because I
Right.
do. And I don't necessarily plan to stop either.
Of course. Yeah.
So, but there are certainly some cons to it as
Mhm.
well. And this is where this documentary that we mentioned before is going to come into play a little bit.
Mhm.
The social dilemma. Yeah. The
Yeah.
social dilemma. Um,
And before we get into that, I want, if you're watching this live, go ahead and comment down below your favorite social media platforms. What platforms do you use the most? What are
I'd be
your
curious.
favorites? Yeah,
I'd be
let us
curious to hear
know.
some of that. I'd be curious to hear some of that as well. Hang on, actually, before we move into this next section, what's the hype about Pinterest? Like, what's because I've never been on Pinterest before.
I don't know. I think it's okay. Honestly, I think it's more so, and it's not even that I think, but based on what I know, it's more so of a female platform.
Is that
Like,
right?
I don't know. Like, I guess we just like pictures of,
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how to explain it.
Is it like arts and crafts and recipes
It's
and things like that?
everything. It's
Decorating,
yes,
decorating.
arts and crafts, decorations, um, room decor, closets, all kind of, like, it's just everything. Anything you can think of is on there. But you know, when I first got on there, it was because I wanted like smoothie recipes, and I think I started using this back when I was in college too. Especially when I was running track, and I was just like, all right, let me look up some smoothie recipes.
Mm-hmm.
And I got on Pinterest, but and then like now, if you go to my, oh my gosh, It's like my dream boards, everything. It's just everything. So
sounds like you're passionate about it.
I'm not on it every day, but when I'm on there, like I could literally
you on
like
there?
Yes, for like hours.
I got you. Anyway, yeah, so shoot us a comment. Let us know what you guys are using, what you guys enjoy using, maybe what you use the most, or maybe what you dislike the most. Let us know. We'd love to hear it. I think Steve can probably let us know if we get any feedback on that.
Yeah.
But the social dilemma. So let's talk about, maybe let's leave the whole algorithm thing for there's Benjamin.
Go get one. Go get one. Sorry. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, y'all.
No problem.
Mom life.
No problem. If he wants to make a guest appearance, I think we'd be all right with it. But anyway, maybe let's leave the whole algorithm thing to the side for just a moment. I know that's probably what's on everyone's mind because that's what all the buzz is about right now. But like, what else comes to mind when you think about negative aspects of social media? I've got a few. Do you want to take that first, or you want me to go for it?
It doesn't matter. I mean, okay. I have a few, you have a few, so
right. I'll say a few. So I think one of the first things that comes to my mind is just like how, as young folks, like me, not so much, I don't think. But I think that there are definitely people out there who this really matters to. But it's like, it's almost like we associate our self-worth or our social status to how many likes we're getting, how many likes we're getting on a post, how many comments we're getting on a post. So it's as if, if we don't get 50 likes within the first 5 minutes. Well, does that post even need to stay up? Should I delete it? Oh my God, nobody likes me.
Something wrong with me, right?
And then it's compounding effect, and it has a significant impact, I think, on today's youth. I really think it does. On a serious note, we've seen a spike in depression in kids as young as 9, 10, 11, 12, right. Which is crazy. Crazy. The last thing that they should be concerned about is how many likes they're getting on their Facebook post. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But then, also more seriously, we're seeing, spikes in suicide and things like that as well. Yeah. That's how serious it can be.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say that I associate my self-worth or my value to the world with my likes, but I would be a complete bold-faced liar if I sat here and said that I wasn't keeping up with like how many likes my Instagram post was getting, because I do. I do. I am interested in that. I don't have all my likes hitting my phone screen at once, but right. I'll periodically go back and check it. Right. So
I feel like it's the natural thing to do.
It is, and it's tough not to. I don't want to sit here and say that I'm above that, and I don't care at all. I don't care at all how many likes I get, because that's simply not the case.
Right.
But am I going to be down and out for the next 3 months if I get under 200 likes on my Instagram post?
Right.
No, I'm not. That's like the first thing that kind of pops into my mind, and I know for a fact that a lot of younger people, youth people out there can relate to that. I'm not really sure about the old folks. I don't really know if they care or not. So
that's a great question. I'm curious to know if the older folks do get concerned about likes. I honestly don't think they do.
Don't think
I
don't
know. I don't think.
I don't know. Somebody let us know. Somebody let us
know because we're curious.
Somebody let us know.
So Wendy said, "I love that I can post on Facebook and Instagram at the same time and done. Okay. And I have been unfollowing and unliking pages recently. It's too much."
That's a great point that she made. So that's a cool point. Like, I can make an Instagram post, which is what I commonly do. If I'm going to make a post, it's probably going to be on Instagram, but I can also I can basically send that post right over to Facebook as well.
Right.
I do enjoy that feature as well. Great point,
Yeah.
Wendy.
And she also said a positive is that it brings our countries closer. My family is in Trinidad and Tobago. I hope I said that right.
Trinidad and Tobago.
Mhm.
Tomato.
Right.
That's a great point as well. People that are worlds apart can stay connected in that respect. You know, they can see pictures, they can see posts, they can see videos of each other. And if that weren't the case, maybe the only mode of communication they may have is via phone or via email or something like that. So that's an incredibly powerful thing as well. So negative, Shana, you got a negative on social media? Something that comes to mind other than the whole algorithm argument?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I feel like it does have a huge impact on our perception of how we see ourselves, and just it really plays into that whole comparison game. Oh,
Yep.
well, I'm not where I should be in
Absolutely.
life, or they're way far ahead of me, or people my age should be doing X, Y, and Z.
Right.
It's really easy to get on social media and then see, especially people that and just like, oh man, like what am I doing wrong? Or I know, like when we were watching the Social Dilemma, that go put that back, that one of the girls was like 14 years old, I think, and she was looking in the mirror and kind of like crying and asking like what was wrong with her. And I'm looking at that movie like, girl, you are beautiful. Like there is nothing wrong with you. You like
somebody made a comment about her ears.
Yes, her ears being too small. Made a comment about her ears. Who cares?
She's like, can your ears get any bigger or something like that?
So like,
and that's
how big do you want your ears? Like seriously.
That segues into a whole nother. I think that segues into it's like cyberbullying as well.
Exactly. So I definitely think that's one of the negatives, is that it does lead to that cyberbullying, and then those conversations of really tearing someone else's self-esteem down, and the even on top of that, what makes it even more negative is the fact that parents tend to not know that it's happening, because oftentimes when someone is being cyberbullied, they're dealing with it internally and silently.
Right.
So, and parents often, like, how many times are you doing phone checks? How many times are you checking on your kids' social media, their usage? Parents want to, like, oftentimes, like, extend them that freedom.
Right.
Not feel like they're overstepping their boundaries. But, I mean, when you really think about it, like, I don't know about you, but in my middle school days and high school days, like, there were times where kids were just mean.
Oh yeah,
like really mean.
Middle school. This is a whole different conversation, and I'm not even going to get into it. But middle school was at least the very beginning of middle school was a dark time for me, because kids are mean. They are incredibly mean, and I've got my youngest sister Lainey. She's a little bit older now. She's 16.
Yeah.
But I can remember, when she was coming up, through middle school, it was rough. She even chose to go to a different high school at home, because she just needed to get away from this toxic group. And on social media, it's almost like
it makes it worse.
You can't escape that toxic group. Even if you geographically or physically separate yourself from those people, you actually may not be able to get away from them. They're going to find you, and they're going to continue to, poke fun at you, put you down.
Some people create fake accounts just to, be that negative force in your life and comment evil and mean and nasty things.
Crazy ex-boyfriends and girlfriends.
Yes. Oh my gosh. But, that's another thing, like cyber stalkers. All kind of things can go wrong with social media if you just sit back and actually like really think about it. But
there's it almost seems like there's very little control. There's very little control about
regulations.
What goes on social media, like who can join and who can see what, and I feel like I get followed and friend requested by, this is obviously a fake account with like it's obviously some guy in a deep dark dungeon on the other end of that account, and they're trying to be my friend,
Right.
and
Yeah.
it's bizarre.
Yeah.
But then, I also find myself, how about those rabbit holes, right?
Mm-hmm.
The rabbit holes that you go down as well. And
Yes.
this is, I think, when we're going to begin to start talking about these algorithms that I'm sure is on everyone's mind. But I mean, you can waste so much time on social media,
Oh my
like
gosh. Yeah.
so much time. Like actually, just recently, this was actually like atypical of me. I stayed up way too late the other night on YouTube. I don't necessarily get on YouTube
Guilty.
that I don't necessarily get on YouTube that much, but
Mm-hmm.
I had watched this I like watched this war movie Sunday night. It's a new war movie on Netflix. It's called The Outpost. If you like war
Oh,
movies,
okay.
it's a good
Nice.
it's a
They're
solid
out.
movie. I think Steezo, did you watch it?
Yeah, great movie. That's the one where they're in that pretty much
Yeah, The
unlivable.
Outpost in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Outpost in the
Mm,
Valley. Yeah, it's got Clint Eastwood's
nice.
son in it. Top notch movie. Anyway,
Okay.
that's beside the point. It's if you like war movies, it is a war movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make that clear. But the guy, it's a true story, and the guys that were in the movie, the actual people in real life, there were a couple of those guys. They received the Medal of Honor.
Mm.
And so on the tail end of the movie, like when the credits are rolling and things like that, it shows clips, small interviews of these veterans, talking about that experience. And right then I was like, I kind of want to, I want to see some more, Medal
Yeah.
of Honor winners, Medal of Honor guys talk about their stories. And so I
Mm.
pull it up on YouTube, and lo and behold, I'm up till like 11:30 watching veterans talk about their story, their war stories, and
When
receiving
you
the
say
Medal of
you
Honor.
stayed up late, I was like thinking 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay, 11 o'clock. Oh man.
Look! I go to bed early. I go to bed
I
early
do
these
too.
days.
And we always catch the most heat from the team.
Yeah, I don't see what the
Because
problem
you're like,
is.
oh, they need to get in bed. But I was thinking about that. It's actually their fault because think about it. Like our parents raised us to get in bed at a certain time. So now,
Yeah,
just
now I'm doing it.
think
I'm
about
23 and I'm doing it now. I didn't do it when
Exactly.
I didn't do it
Exactly.
didn't do it when I was 12, but I'll do it when I'm 23. Anyway, like
Brady said
those
11:30 p.m. is not late, Brandon. Brady, sorry.
no worries. But the reason I kept, going down that, path and watching all those videos is because what does it do? You finish one, it
Suggest
puts another one right in your face, and you're like, oh man, that one looks really good.
it's
I've
the
got to
power
watch
of
that.
auto suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
Like seriously.
The power of auto suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, yeah, and then also I find myself like doing the same thing on Instagram. So
Yep.
I sell power tools for a living, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most people should know that by now. If you didn't, I sell power tools for a living.
Yep.
Anyway, my Discover page on Instagram. So there's that Discover page where you can just kind of scroll and scroll and scroll for eternity.
Mm-hmm.
It's covered in like power tool videos. So guys using power tools, guys building things, guys using products that I sell every day.
Mm-hmm.
And gosh, I can watch that stuff for hours,
Wow.
literally hours. Yeah, it sounds like super geeky and super nerdy, but
I mean, we all have our thing.
I seriously do. I'll watch people driving screws in the wood for like a couple of hours, and cutting cast iron with a Milwaukee Sawzall blade.
Nice.
I'll do that. I'll do that. But the reason that I do it is because I can just scroll and scroll and scroll
Mm-hmm.
and scroll, and so you can find yourself, in those rabbit holes. But that's because of these algorithms, right? They're learning, these social media platforms, they're learning about us every single second we spend on these applications.
Yeah.
They're
literally just collecting data.
Yep.
More and more.
They're collecting data, and they're not necessarily, well, I guess maybe in a sense they are using it against us, but they're profiting off of it.
Definitely.
Their goal is to keep you on the screen as much as possible, getting you to engage as much as possible. And it's gotten to the point where it's having extremely, extremely negative effects on society, like some of those reasons that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I mean, like scientifically, I think it increases the dopamine in your brain. So even like the brain function of these platforms, they affect you on a psychological level. You know, we already talked about depression. So not only just like on your emotional level, but even like, you know, the way you perceive certain things, because the media is constantly feeding us like fake news. You know, it's hard to know like what's true, what's not true. So yeah,
I mean, I think I take everything, literally everything, with a grain of salt, these days, because I have absolutely no idea what's credible and what's not credible. It truly is sad.
So bad.
It truly is sad. I don't know exactly at what point we as a society, maybe as a country or as a society, you know, as human beings as whole, at what point we took that turn.
Yeah.
But I think everybody knows it. Everybody knows it now, and I think that we've got to figure out a way to get back to it. Right. One other thing, I just lost it, but there was one other thing that I wanted to bring up about social media as a negative. Anyway, it'll come back to me in a second.
If not, he'll come back to this video and comment it down below.
Yeah, I'll comment I'll comment it below. Gosh, that's gonna bother me.
It's funny because I studied communications in college, so mass media communications. But in one of my communications class, we learned how in different societies they have like different regulations on their on, you know, just their media. And I found it like really interesting to see how little America regulates the media, from the movies that we watch to what's allowed to be shown in those movies, to, you know, what's promoted, like again, like in those news feeds. One of my favorites was like in India, and the thing about it is that it's kind of catching fire like everywhere, because even like now, from the time that I took that class and comparing what's happening now in their mediums, is that you're starting to see more sexualized videos and things of that nature. Whereas in the past, like that was like a no-no. Like if you were going to show a movie, they were really cautious of what they were showing. But now I think that worldwide, you know, it's kind of taken a turn for the worse.
Right. And so like why do these social media companies, why do they put these algorithms in place to learn our habits, to learn what we're interested in? Why do they do this? They do this because of the other large corporations that are paying for ad space on these platforms, right? So that's the money making. That's how they're making these money. That's how they're making this money, is to keep us on the screen, to keep us seeing as many ads, in a day as possible, to generate that money.
And think about it, like you hit the nail right on the head. Like when you see an ad, for instance, you say your father was talking about Israel trips, and then he started getting all these ads. You like power tools, you start getting all these ads. I love real estate, so I get a lot of ads for like houses in Canada. I'll probably never move to Canada, but anyways, but I get in clothes and other things of that nature. But the whole thing is that they learn your habits. They want to know what you like, you know, your age range, because they're collecting all this information to put you in a demographic. So, you know, when you think of it from a marketing perspective, like there's demographics, which includes your age, your race, ethnicity, how much you make, you know, what you buy. They really want to know your habits, because when you know your customer, you can sell better to your customer. Because they like, you know, it's going to hit them. It's all about messaging. It's all about making you buy out of emotion. So they want to get you emotionally involved.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. It's almost like our, as people that are using these platforms, our attention, our attention is the product. Like our attention is the product, and the data that we're giving these social media organizations is the product that they've made. I mean, outrageous, mind-blowing amounts of money off of.
Yes.
That one point that I wanted to make, and then I want to segue
Did you
into
remember
it.
it?
I did.
Nice.
I did. It's younger people, and I don't want to make anybody, I don't want to offend anybody here, but I think younger people, like younger than me and you, they have trouble communicating with not only each other in live, physical, real settings, face to face, but they also, I think I see it all the time, like these younger kids, they have trouble communicating with adults as well.
Yes.
They have trouble ordering at restaurants. They have trouble asking questions, things like that. I see that all the time. And I do think that that's a product of how much screen time, they're having, and how, like, their primary mode of communication with their friends, with their, their crush that they have is through a screen,
Exactly.
through these social media platforms. So
behind the screen.
Yeah, and I think that's not how life was meant to be lived, right?
No, not
Anyway,
at all.
I wanted to make that point because I feel like I run into that quite often, where I'm like, really, like,
Right.
why do you feel like you just, like, I'll talk to a young kid, and in the store while I'm working or something like that, and it's like they don't know like how to talk to me or what to say to me. I'm like, have you never had an interaction like this before? It's like a 16-year-old kid.
Oh wow.
Anyway, let's segue and let's talk about Convene for a few minutes. I want to talk about Convene, and I want to talk about how we are different, how we separate ourselves from these other social media platforms. I think the most obvious thing is we are not a social media platform, nor do we really want to be.
No.
We don't want to be. That is not our goal. We are a community-driven, really shared experiential learning platform. That is what we are. And that's the primary and most obvious difference. And that's, if there's one thing you take away from this, is we are not social media, and we do not want to be social media. We have a completely 100% different purpose here. And then, so, I mean, you have anything else you want to add on that?
Of course. I am like so passionate about Convene Communities because, the sky is the limit with this platform. It's not a social media, but I think, that's actually a really great thing because you can come in there and connect with people on a more personal level. But also, you don't have things constantly pulling for your attention. You don't have distractions. You don't have anything that's really going to make you, like, I think from what I've experienced so far, being on the platform, is that you just have less of that
noise.
The noise. And think about, like, when you have so much noise going on, eventually you get tired of the noise. Like, you just need silence. I don't know. Me personally, anyways.
Yeah. No, I totally get what you're saying, 100%. And so, like, we talk to people all the time, entrepreneurs, people who have businesses, who, are out there looking to help people who are putting content out there on their Facebook groups. And we at Convene, we talk to people all the time about how they might have 500 followers on their Facebook group, but their content is, they're not getting any engagement on their content, not getting any comments or likes. They're getting lost in translation, right? All of this other junk from the algorithms and whatnot is getting in the way of those people actually seeing that content. And so it's getting buried, the meaningful content is getting buried beneath the junk. And so, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's a really great point. I think Todd mentioned, on our last call, that everything pretty much has an algorithm to it. But, with social media, exactly. But with social media, it's almost like the more you're on it, the more they will suggest your post to other people. So you really have to spend quite a good amount of time in order for, let's say, your 500 people group to see your posts. Or you can boost those posts. You'll pay money to boost those posts
Yep.
to have people,
Yep.
Seeing.
That's
So
right.
Either you're going to spend your life on social media,
Mm-hmm.
or you're going to be paying them to put you higher up in
Right.
that algorithm.
Yeah. Yep. That's right. That's absolutely right. So how do we at Convene, how do we combat, or not necessarily combat, but how are we different than that?
Well,
Our
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I thought you
Well,
were asking me.
it was kind of rhetorical, but our platform is community driven, right? So we have all kinds of communities. We have wellness, we have veterans, we have soccer, we have hope and support, we have all sorts of communities across the board. And anybody who's inside of those communities, anybody's who inside of those groups, they obviously want to be there, and they want to engage with the content that's on there. And at any time, if you're a person who has content and you have a following and you're looking for a place where you don't want to get caught up in the noise, Convene is a perfect place, because not only will your group members and your community members be notified when you put anything out, they'll be notified right away, but we also do not have ads on our site, and we will never have ads on our site. So there will never be any incentive for us to put algorithms in place. I mean, that's just the fact. We don't. That's not how we plan to monetize. That's not how we plan to monetize our platform here.
I love what Lindy said. She said it's controllable, customizable, and shareable.
Right.
And she's one of our community leaders as well. But yeah, like it is completely 100% all three of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about it too is that it doesn't really matter like what you do, you can make use of it. So like for me, like I can see teachers, using this platform to, put out their lesson plans and just what they're teaching.
Yep.
Because you can do what? You can do tests, you can do surveys, and for businesses, this may be really great because you can collect market data in a sense where you're surveying your customers or you're surveying people. And then, like you said, entrepreneurs and content creators, like the sky is really the limit.
I totally agree, and I love that point that Lindy made, the customization.
Yes.
And we've said this for a long time. Convene, not only is it structured in a great way, there's a structure to it. It's not a bunch of chaos like you might find on some of these other platforms, but it is also an empty shell. It truly is like an empty shell where you, as a community leader or a group leader or somebody with content, you truly can do what you want with it. Like it really,
it's a blank canvas.
It is a blank canvas. You'd be hard pressed to find something that you want to do with online content that can't be done inside Convene. You can have public free content, free blogs, free videos, podcasts, etc. You can have private groups as well within a community. So I can see this being applicable to a number of things. Maybe it's just content that you want to keep private to a very small group. Maybe you're a sports coach and you want to manage your team. You want to find a place where you can privately, put, scenario based sports, plays and things like that. You can cut up, game film and put that in there and ask your players questions about it. And I mean, the sky's the limit on that. And then also on top of that, you have the ability to sell your content as well for whatever price that you choose. Whatever price that you choose, you name that price. It can be anything.
On top of that, if you're selling the content, you have affiliates who can then go out there and pretty much like resell or promote your content. Yeah. So you have a team.
Yeah, so I mean, our affiliate program, I mean, gosh, we're just scratching the surface on that. And we'll probably talk more about that in another episode. But
yeah,
but basically, like, if you are a community leader or a group leader and you choose to opt into our affiliate program, basically what that means is if you're selling content in your community or in your group and you choose to contribute a percentage as small as 10% of that price to our affiliate program, you will then automatically opt into our affiliate program, and you'll have what we like to call an army of Convene affiliates who are incentivized to actually promote and sell and share your content, because they will in turn make money off of those people that are coming in, to engage with your content. It's an extremely, extremely powerful thing.
I mean, I feel like we 100% stand by that name, Convene Communities.
Yes.
Like, if you just, any direction that you look in, like, it is a community-based platform. I love when Matthew says you're not stranded out there on an island by yourself, because you're not. From our core team that are 100% supporting you and engaging with you, to the Convene coaches that are backing you up and helping you to make it work for you, to the affiliate program, to like all of these different avenues and aspects, and then getting into the platform and being able to go from different communities to different communities. Like, if you're, like you said, if you're selling content, the great thing is that you can go explore. You don't have to, like, if you go join a group and you're paying for someone's content, you're not just bound to that one group.
Right.
You can go and look at what other things may interest you, what other things may benefit you, and that's where that community-based platform really comes to play.
Absolutely. There's many things, but there's one other incredibly powerful thing that I want to touch on, that I think is important that we mention, is that there's an anonymity component to Convene as well. So there are some topics, at its core, it's an shared learning, experiential learning platform. So the idea is, at its core, of course, there's a lot of things that can be done with the Convene platform, but at its core, really at its inception, the idea was to build a place where people can share their experiences, share their knowledge in a safe and structured and meaningful way. And some of those experiences are quite sensitive, right? Some of those experiences, are those life experiences that we go through are quite sensitive. And I know that there are probably a lot of people out there who've had things happen in their lives that they want to share and want to get input from other people out there, the other million people who have had the same thing happen to them, but they may not necessarily feel comfortable having their name attached to that, right?
Their face, right?
Their name and their face attached to that. So anytime anybody works through, we call them experiences, but call it what you would. It's basically, a lesson or a module or a scenario, whatever the case may be. We call them experiences. Course, right? Anytime somebody makes an answer to a question, an open-ended question, it's anonymous. Nobody knows, not even the community leader or the group leader, in that case, knows who answered that. And the idea is to make people feel comfortable with actually sharing, what's inside, sharing what they may have wanted to get off their chest for a long time, sharing what they really want, honest feedback from others out there in the world who are feeling the same thing. And I think that that's an incredibly powerful thing. You talk about all the negative effects of social media and things like that. Well, Convene's a place that we can talk about that, and we can talk about that, in a safe way. Right. And I think that's an awesome piece that we built in as well. So,
and if anything is, let's say that goes horribly wrong and there are threats being made or just anything like that, we will go into the back end, the far back end. Like, then you have to get the developers and everything involved. But as far as like your safety, like, that is going to always be our number one priority on this platform. So if needed, like, that's what developers and the tech people do. But
everything.
I throw that out there because someone may say, well, what if the anonymity piece just becomes like not such a good thing, well, then we'll address it.
Yep, we have checks in place, to monitor that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Every single piece of content that's posted on Convene goes through an approval process through us, through our leadership team. Everything must be approved by us in order for it to be published. However, we're doing that. We're not necessarily taking a look at that piece of content when we approve it and going through it with a fine-tooth comb. We're simply looking at it to say, okay, hey, is this appropriate? Is this
and that's when you're creating stuff. But if there's a comment on there that is inappropriate or something like that, then you can report those.
That's right.
You'll see that on when you log into your in your membership. You'll see that on the left hand side. So hopefully you're already on the platform, that you're using it and that you're loving it, because we love it 100%. So
yeah, awesome. Well, we're coming up. We're coming up on the top of the hour here. I want to ask one thing, Shayna. I know that you're working on finalizing a community here soon, and maybe we get just a little bit of a sneak peek at it tonight. But I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think your idea behind this community is very relevant to the conversation that we've had tonight. Is that right?
Right. Yes. So I am working on a community, and you're more than welcome to go join. It is just Shayna Marie Affle. But in that community, it is mainly it's a faith-based community primarily. However, I'm also going to be teaching marketing courses and things of that nature. But, I'm really big on just personal development and helping women, especially, just live a more connected life. So I don't know if that really was a great way of putting it, but it's just it's an encouraging community to just lift each other up. So
empowering women, things like that. So awesome. Well, I think we'll talk more about that on our next episode. So like we said last time, guys, we're going to wrap it up here, but we're going to do these millennial edition podcasts. We're going to do them about once a month right now. So you guys can definitely catch us in about a month's time from now. We'll be on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. But thank you all so much for joining us tonight. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for viewing. Thank you for being with us tonight. Stezo, thank you so much for facilitating for us. You're the man. We could not do it without you. Shayna, you got any parting words before we jump off here?
Nope. I just want to say thanks, guys. We love you all, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Convenecommunities.com. Go check it out. Y'all have a great night.
We're clear.